the first author I want you to meet is a two-time author. She is an expert in healing trauma, and she learned a lot of her tools the hard way through her own journey. This book is called Storytelling as a Healing Tool, as a therapy tool, using story to heal trauma and abuse. The author joining me here today is Heidi Henyon. Heidi, I am so excited to be interviewing you about book number 2. Congratulations.
I can't believe it. It's here. Thank you so much for having me and helping me.
This very much feels like a sister book to your first book. It's more tools for healing trauma, and particularly storytelling. I'd love to hear more about why storytelling and who this book is for.
So this book is geared for anybody who has had trauma in their life, has been abused in their life, and how to heal. It's particularly geared towards counselors, therapists, coaches, people who work with other people. It's also geared to help people create groups. We heal so much better in groups. We really do.
Why do you think that is?
I'm sorry, what?
Why do you think that is?
I think it's primarily because we're actually seen. You know, when you're relaying a story that's been very heartfelt, that's been very hard to do that, even though you're being very vulnerable and it can be scary, when you get the empathy back from the group, you get the comments, it can help you to feel better. Additionally, I know the groups that I've worked with and been part of, I'll hear solutions that other people have had. And all of a sudden it's like, why didn't I think of that? Or
Yeah.
I'll hear somebody else's story and realize I'm really not alone.
Yeah.
And we're social beings. We need that.
So powerful. What, I talk about storytelling a lot for writers and in marketing. You talk about storytelling as a therapy tool. What is it about stories that you think are so important or valuable?
I think from a number of angles. One that I'll just give right now, many people who are listening who know me, last year was just a crazy year. I lost my mother, brother, sister, got divorced, moved, sat with a dear friend. Actually, while I was writing this book, I was at my dear friend's house as she was dying. And I was telling somebody that, and they looked at me and go, how are you even functioning? And I was kind of like, well, that's just what happened. But she gave me one of those looks. And after she gave me that look, I went home that night and I wrote the story, but I wrote it from somebody looking in. By the end of I guess it took me about an hour. By the end of the hour, I actually realized how traumatic a year it had been. The barriers you put up so that you can make it through trauma started coming down, and I gave myself permission literally to take a month off, editing my book, of course, but to grieve.
Yeah.
Had I not looked at it from that perspective, had I not had somebody reflect back to me how terrible that story was, I would have probably just pushed it all down. The grief would have come out sideways, either as illness or treating other people wrong or something of that sort. And that's just a personal example.
Right.
Most recent.
Yep. And I think there's something about storytelling that takes us out of the day to day. One of my biggest healing tools was retelling my own story in different ways and seeing how I could cast myself as the hero or the villain or just like a wayward bystander. And you realize, oh, we really do tell our own story of our life and then we live that out. So very powerful. Well, David from San Antonio wrote in and he wants to know, was writing your second book easier or harder? So what do you have to say about the process of writing a second book? And hopefully it's the second of many. Usually books are like tattoos. You cannot just get one.
Yes, yes, that is very true. I would say it was different. I remember you explaining to us one time in the very beginning of my first book how you have to become the person that wrote the book. And I didn't understand that the first time until I got through my first book, Trauma and Abuse Healing Using Ritual and Ceremony, that all of a sudden I had to start practicing what was in the book because all the stuff was coming up. Same thing happened with the second book. What made it so much easier is I already understood the process from working with the Authors Incubator, from working with my editors like Nkechi and everybody. So I think because I understood the process, that part let me know that the second book would get accomplished. The first book, you're in the middle of it, you're panicking, and you don't know if you'll ever get it accomplished. From that experience, I knew I would accomplish it. However, I still am so grateful, for the help of everybody at Authors Incubator, because you guys made the second book flow much easier. At 2:00 in the morning when I was in a panic, I'd post something on Facebook, and normally within an hour, somebody else would be posting. Why anybody else is up that late, I don't know.
Time zones around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I agree with you. I've written 5 books with my name on them. I was a ghostwriter for another 29, but I put my name on 5 books, and it's never easy. And my insecurities and doubts don't go away. And the universe never fails to throw that challenge that's in the book that I think I can write about right in my face every time. Last time I wrote a book about hiring people, and one of my favorite employees quit in a explosive way in the middle of it. I was like, thank you, universe, I forgot. And yet knowing the process, knowing it's going to get done, and knowing your book will help people does, I think, make it a little easier. But there's still lessons from each book. It's like, I think it's almost like having a kid. Your book teaches you sometimes as much as you teach it. So your book, let's show it to people one more time. You can get it below. Storytelling as a Therapy Tool, Using Story to Heal Trauma and Abuse by Heidi Henyon. Heidi, congratulations.